This is Mary Lewis at A Tiny Homestead, the podcast comprised entirely of conversations with homesteaders, cottage food producers, and crafters. If you're enjoying this podcast, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave a comment. Thank you. Today I'm talking with Shavonica at In the Kitchen with Grammy. Good morning, Shavonica. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I want to know all about what you do at In the Kitchen with Grammy.
Great. So it all started about 4 years ago, and I started cooking with my granddaughter. She'll be 6 in July, and we just started making videos and cooking with her. And now I have 4 granddaughters and a 5th on the way. But we get in the kitchen and we cook, and I teach them how to make different kinds of foods. But now we've started a channel called In the Kitchen with Grammy, and we're doing pies. I think that pie making has been a lost art, kind of, and people aren't really doing that anymore. So I want to teach our granddaughters and make sure that they know how to do all that. So we started the In the Kitchen with Grammy. We have a weekly broadcast that comes out where I have either a grandchild or I've had several guests come on, and we're cooking and making pies. And then we actually take our pies out in the public and let them taste them and rate them on a scale from 1 to 10. And from that, people were saying, "Where can I buy these pies?" And I said, "Well, you really can't buy them anywhere. We're just, it's a YouTube, Facebook channel and all that." But they kept requesting it. And so from that, we've actually formed Grammy's Pies. And I'm now in the pie business probably about a month ago and doing pies on a weekly basis.
That's great. So are you falling under the cottage food laws for Texas? Is that how you're doing it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in Texas, are you allowed to ship your food if you have your cottage food registration thing?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right.
That we're working on. It may require me getting a, permanent location, getting it inspected and that type of thing. And so we've had tons of requests for shipping, and that'll be something that we're working on and, trying to get that in the works.
Yeah, all the cottage food laws in all the states are not the same. We're like you in Minnesota. We are not allowed to ship foods if we only have our cottage food. It's not licensing, it's a registration. I keep wanting to say license, but it's not a license. So, but I guess in other states you can ship, and I'm waiting for Minnesota to decide that we're allowed to ship our goods as well. Okay, so
let me rephrase that. You can actually ship within the state. I should have said that. You can ship within the state of Texas. So
okay.
It's a big state. And so I could ship anywhere within the state what I've read, but I can't ship outside the state.
Okay, we're not allowed to ship anywhere from Minnesota. No. Nope. And the people that are in charge of this, the higher ups, as it were, not me, are working to get the laws changed, but it's a very, very steep climb. So
yes.
I love pie. I hate making pie because I cannot perfect a pie crust to save my life. Do you have a secret for making pie dough?
Yeah, I use a recipe we use real butter. People just say your crust is really flaky. It's just it's crisp, it's good. And so, just rolling it out, using the right kind of flour, just the right ingredients. And one of the things when you're making a pie crust is using really cold butter. It's got to come straight out of the fridge, and you've got to, use it right away to make your pie crust stick.
Okay, so do you like use a grater and grate the butter so it gets incorporated, or how do you use the cold butter?
I don't. I cut up butter in kind of like cubes, and then I use a food processor.
Oh, okay.
And you kind of pulse it, and it, grinds it up and gets it all in there and makes it a little easier. And you actually have to use really cold water as well. So water, cold butter in with your flour mixture, and that helps. And I also offer a gluten-free crust in my pies. So that's another little option.
You are a one-stop shop then. That's great.
Yeah.
I never thought of using my food processor to pulse the cold butter. I'm going to have to attempt making pie crust again now that I have been reminded that you can do that.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know what to ask you exactly because I just don't know. Um, so how old are your other granddaughters?
All right. So my granddaughters are, my oldest one will be 6 in July. I have one that just turned 3, one that just turned 2, one that's 19 months, and then one that's due the first part of August.
So do the 3 and 2-year-olds try to help too, or are they still too little?
No, no, they try to help. They get in there and they love it. We've got a couple of cooking shows with her on it also, and they absolutely love to get in the kitchen with Grammy and cook.
Awesome. I saw a couple of your videos. They're really fun. I looked on your Facebook page. Um, the only cooking I did with either of my grandmothers, and they're both now passed, so there's no cooking with my grandmothers anymore. My dad's stepmom, technically, used to make thumbprint cookies out of pie dough, actually.
Hmm.
And so she would make the pie dough, and then she would have us kids stick our thumb in the middle of the rounds, and then she would put some kind of preserve in that indent and then bake them. And it was like little tiny thumbprint pies. I remember doing that with her in her kitchen.
Oh, that's precious.
And I don't know that I ever cooked with my mom's mom. I don't remember. We lived in Maine and they lived in Illinois, so we saw them like every other summer in Illinois.
Hmm.
And my grandma was a fantastic, quote unquote, Southern cook. She made amazing fried chicken. She made some delectable pies, but I just don't remember actually cooking with her. So the only thing I remember is the thumbprint cookies.
I never cooked with either of my grandparents and didn't have much cooking with my mom.
Yeah.
And so I think I just wanted to make a point to cook with my grandchildren and change that, teach them some things that I had to learn on my own and, make sure they knew how to cook, how to bake it.
And provide them some really fun memories to inspire them to keep cooking.
Absolutely.
Because there is something fantastic about making food from scratch. And I've said this a few times already.
Yeah, we do have all of our pie recipes, though, are passed down from generations. So I did get recipes from, grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents that were passed down. And so that's fun that we're able to incorporate and then turn around and pass those on down to my grandchildren.
Yeah. Are there stories that go with the recipes that have been passed down?
One of them is called A Cup of Pie, and it came from a great great grandparent. I'm not really sure the story behind it, but it's funny because it's called a cup of pie and it's a chocolate pie. And as my mother-in-law put it, there's not a cup of anything in it, and it doesn't make a cup. She doesn't know why it's called a cup of pie, but it makes a delicious fudgy, chocolate pie.
Yum.
My mom has a Texas, we call it a Tex-Mex pecan pie. She had a pecan orchard back in New Mexico, and so she grew her own pecans, harvested them, made pecan pies, and she's passed the recipe on to me. And we actually are currently using her pecans, still to make those pecan pies. And so that's where that recipe came from. And then I've got a triple coconut cream that was passed down. It started out as a double coconut cream, and then I've just changed it and added. Actually has 4 derivatives of coconut in the pie, and it's really tasty. It's one of my top sellers.
Okay, well, I think that you might want to write a cookbook here after you get settled into your selling pies.
Absolutely, that's one thing. My son helps me with all of this stuff that we have going on, all of my business, and that's the thing that he's been recommending is that we just write a cookbook and publish that. And as we did the pie tasting out in the community, that's what people asked: "Are you going to have a cookbook, and when will it be published?" And so we're talking about it, and it's in the works.
If you're gonna do it, I'm gonna offer up advice, and I probably shouldn't because nobody needs my advice, but I'm gonna offer it up anyway. If you're gonna try to publish a cookbook, I would try floating it to an actual publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because trying to publish cookbooks is kind of a pain in the butt because of the formatting in the way you do it on Kindle. I used to do this, and it really is a pain if you don't know what you're doing. And also because you have the videos and because you're becoming fairly known, a publisher might be willing to work with you a lot sooner.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It just takes the pain in the butt part out of it for you. You
Absolutely.
supply the recipes and the stories, and then they do the thing, and you supply the photos.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually have my daughter-in-law is a photographer, so we have taken professional photos of every pie that we've done so far. Currently, I have 8 on my menu.
Mhm.
That will grow as but we started out with the 8 that are on the menu, and they've got professional photos and everything of each pie. So that's on our website.
Tell me the different pies, the names of the pies.
Okay, let me see. I've got pecan pie. It's called a Tex-Mex pecan pie. I've got a chocolate pie. It's chocolate cream. I don't do any of the meringue because a lot of people don't care for it. And meringue is very touchy and it can be, the humidity related. I mean, there's just different things that can affect meringue. So all my pies that could be meringue, they're cream pies. So they're topped
Okay.
with a homemade whipped topping. All my crusts are homemade. So I've got the pecan, I've got chocolate, I've got a peachy keen. So that's an interesting one where you've got and I don't get I don't use canned fruit or, it's all fresh. And so I peel the fruit and slice it and cook it down. But anyway, it's got a peach filling. And over the top of it, it's got like a cinnamon cream sauce before you put your
Mm.
top crust on. So it's really good, really tasty. And I've got um, uh, an apple pie, I think is my son's favorite. And that one's really good. It's been a good seller. I've got a lemon dream pie, and it is the best of both worlds between a lemon pie and a cheesecake. So it contains cream cheese, and it's almost you put your lemon pie on in your crust, and then you top it with this that's almost like a cream cheese frosting, but with lemon. It's so good, and then you top that with your whipped topping, and that's been a top seller. I've got a blueberry cream pie. That one's really delicious. Yeah, and the lemon. Okay, let me go back to the lemon. The lemon actually has a graham cracker crust, and
Mhm.
so that's a really good one. And then the blueberry is not a double crusted. It is a lemon. It's a blueberry cream pie, and so it's layered with you've got a crust, you've got a cream, and then you've got your blueberry filling, and then the whipped topping on top. So it's a layered, and it's a top seller. I really like that one. Let me
Okay.
see. Triple coconut. My triple coconut. Mentioned that earlier. Um, that's got 4 different derivatives of coconut in it, and it's topped with toasted coconut on top of the whipped topping.
And I think that's
Oh,
8. Yes?
but what I do offer is not only your original pie, but I offer every pie in a gluten free, every pie in a dairy free, and a sugar free. Yeah. The only one that I can buttermilk. I didn't mention buttermilk. I make a homemade buttermilk that's been passed down for generations as well, and it's a top loved pie. That's the only one that I can't do dairy free, obviously, because it has buttermilk in it. But everything else I can do sugar free, dairy free, or gluten free.
Okay, so what's a buttermilk pie? I've never heard of it.
Really? Okay. So some people call it a chess pie, a buttermilk pie, but I feel like there's a little bit of a difference between them. But it contains usually either 3/4 to a cup of buttermilk and sugar. When you cook it, it's one of the pies that you don't cook on the stove. It's one of kind of like a pecan pie. It's a custard pie where you're going to mix it in a bowl, pour it into a raw crust, and you're going to pop it in the oven. It's going to cook on its own. And it forms this crust over the top that is just delicious. When you cut into it, it doesn't taste anything like a buttermilk pie. So people will say, "Oh, buttermilk pie." That just sounds weird, And so I have when I go to the farmers markets weekly, I have samples and people will taste that and they're like, "Oh my goodness, that's really good. I never would have thought that's what buttermilk pie would taste like."
Okay. Well, I'm a Yankee, so I don't know about buttermilk pie, but is it like a custard consistency?
Custard. Yeah, it's definitely a custard pie. And
Okay.
so it like I said, you mix it up in a bowl and you pour it into your pie crust and it forms the crust over the top and you cut into it and it's definitely a custard
Okay.
inside
That
there.
makes sense.
Really good.
Okay.
It doesn't taste anything like buttermilk. So you'll have to try it sometime.
I'll have to look up a recipe and see if I
Mhm.
can get my husband to make it because he's the one that makes pies around here. He's the best thing I ever chose. He gardens, he bakes, he's amazing.
Um,
Um, I am a sucker for lemon. I love lemon everything. And
Mhm.
I also love cheesecake, so that
Beautiful.
lemon pie sounds amazing.
It is. It is so good. Not just from my word, but people that taste test, they love it. So it's an amazing pie.
Yeah, I tried making lemon bars a couple of years ago, and lemon curd is not the most easy thing on earth to make for me. And I made it, and it turned out okay. And my husband and my son tried the lemon bars, and my husband was like, "These are okay." He said, "I think we need to work on the technique on the lemon curd." And I was like, "I think you're absolutely right."
Gotta really be careful when, like, my lemon pie calls for uh not flour. The what am I thinking? My mind just went blank. Not flour, but what's the other thing that you use for thickening? I can't.
Cornstarch?
Yes, thank you. My mind just went blank. I'm sorry. So you've got to really whip it while you're cooking it, or you're going to have clumps.
Hmm.
And same thing with my chocolate pie. You've got your cornstarch, and you've got to really whip it and cook. Stir it the whole time that it's cooking, or you can literally end up with clumps of, the cornstarch or the flour or whatever in there. So there definitely is a technique, and you've got to keep it going. But the
Yeah.
lemon pie that we discussed, it has fresh zested lemon, lemon zest, not only in the pie but in the frosting itself, and it's just so good. And then I put a little lemon zest across the top of the pie as well.
Well, yes, because it makes it pretty. Lemon
Mhm.
zest is really pretty.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And presentation is half the battle, I hear.
It really is, and that's you know from years ago. I used to cook with like youth kids in our church, and we would do like bake sales, and I would tell them presentation is everything. If even if you go to the dollar store and buy a dollar plate and put it on, and it's cute, people are going to be more apt to buy that than they are something that just doesn't look very pretty. So presentation is most definitely everything.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, Maybe that's why my cookies don't sell well. I'm not really selling my baked goods. I don't have enough hours in the day to make enough things to sell because I'm doing the podcast and I've got a couple other things in the works. But
Hmm.
I tried taking photos of some peanut butter cookies that I made, and it was just an utter failure because I'm not a photographer. And if I ever find the time to actually start baking things and selling them, I'm going to find a photography student at the high school and be like, if I
Yes,
trade you baked goods, will you take photos of my stuff for me?
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, if you,
oh,
you get a
huh?
chance, go to my website and look at the pictures. It's www.grammyspies.com, Grammy with a Y.
Hmm.
And you can look at my pictures of the pies. And my daughter-in-law, she's got a Carissa Grace Photography, and she did all those pie picture photos, and they're really good. We noticed the same thing. We tried taking pictures like with our phone and just trying to get good angles, and it just didn't. So we had to do the whole background, the whole, white tablecloth, and setting it up, and the display and the whole thing, and they turned out really pretty. They look very appetizing. When somebody goes on the site, then it makes them want to click on it and like, ooh, I think I want that.
Yeah, my podcast usually gets released Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 7 a.m. And I suspect that when this one gets released, everybody who listens first thing in the morning is going to be like, I'm having pie for lunch from somewhere.
Yes. I'll tell you a funny story right quick. I was having some problems with my phone, and so I had to call Verizon, and I was talking to somebody from the Philippines yesterday, and telling them, hey, my business line is not working properly, and my voicemail. And he said, what kind of business do you have? And I told him it was pies. He looked it up right then and there, and he was like saying, we don't have those kind of pies over here. Oh my goodness, those look so good. And wanted to, what's your Facebook? And I want to follow you, and all these things. And so now I've got some followers from the Philippines. I said, hey, be sure and share that with your friends and have them follow me. And so he was very interested in what kind of pies and, what they tasted like. And so he loved it. And then I had to work on my voicemail, and he had to call and listen to it. And he was like, that's a very catchy voicemail. I love that. Because my catchphrase is, you don't have to be hungry to eat pie, because it's so,
No,
you can be full from a meal. And I don't care. Somebody pulls out a piece of pie, and then you say, I have a little bit more room. I'm gonna go ahead and eat this piece of pie. And so that's been my catchphrase for a long time, is you don't have to be hungry to eat pie.
you do not. Okay. I have a minor, tiny story about a pie that I have made for years. I make an eggnog pie at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it is the easiest thing ever. It is Cool Whip and the cream cheese, instant pudding mix, and some rum extract. And basically, you make the pudding mix with eggnog and you make it so it turns into like this really thick pudding. You put it in a graham cracker crust, and then you put regular Cool Whip on top, and then you sprinkle a little nutmeg on the top, and it's an eggnog pie. It is the easiest, fakest, most terrible thing for you ever. My father-in-law loved it the first time I made it, and he asked every year for Christmas if I would make it.
Hmm.
And so I'd whip two together and we'd have one after the Christmas dinner and then I'd have one from put in the freezer because you can freeze it. And I think 3 or 4 years ago, he didn't ask. And I said, did you want eggnog pie? And he said, I want it. He said, but I can't have it anymore. My doctor told me I can't eat that
No,
kind of sweets anymore. So I made him one anyway and he stuck it in his freezer. So there's always room for pie.
that's right. There's always room for pie. And that's the thing that I've run into as well with people being diabetic or whatever, is finding a sugar derivative that's not Splenda and not aspartame and all that. And so what I've had people say about when they've taste tested my sugar-free pies is, that's sugar-free? They can't tell. There's not a funky twang, that's what they say. There's not a funky twang to it. And so the what I'm using is really good for, it's okay for diabetics and people watching their sugar, but yet it doesn't taste like a diet pie.
Hmm. Yep. I can't drink diet soda because it has that weird taste to it. I can't get past it.
Me neither.
So I'm like, if I'm gonna drink soda, it's gonna have real sugar in it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. So your 6-year-old granddaughter, um, how much of a hand does she have in your kitchen? Is she at the point where she could make her own batch of cookies or pies or whatever?
She's not at the point where she can make her own pie yet, but she knows I've taught her how to, measure eye level and, how to whip. And so she's definitely a hand. She can get in there and help, but she's not at the point yet where she can just whip up her own pie.
But I'm guessing that it's really fun for her.
It's fun. She loves it. And when they come over and we're not recording, they always want to get in there. They've got their aprons and, they come over and grab their aprons and they want to jump in, and their favorite thing actually to make is like pancakes and waffles. And we did that, for years before we even started the pies. They would come over and, Ramy, let's make pancakes, let's make waffles. And so we would do these little cooking videos and I'd say, what do you want to make? And again, it would be waffles or again, pancakes. And that was just kind of their favorite thing to do, but they love to get in there and cook.
I love that. You're making such wonderful memories with them. And
But
and kids are really honest. If it doesn't turn out great, they're going to tell you.
that has happened. That has
Mhm.
happened. Kids aren't typically fond of like lemon or, tart things. So we've done some things where they've tasted it and they're like, I don't like that. You know, yeah, the buttermilk. Well, funny enough, my granddaughter, the one that's about to be 6, she says her favorite pie is the buttermilk and the chocolate. Those are her two favorite. I was shocked, like, really? But the buttermilk's really sweet. I think you'd be surprised if you tasted it. And then I've also had other guests, like I've had my mom on the cooking show. I've had my sister, my daughter, my daughter-in-law, even my son got in because his favorite pie is apple. So we got in and they were all, they've all been on my cooking show and it's just been fun. My husband's on there.
It's nice to have built-in guests.
It is, it is. And I'm going to venture out. I've got a couple of friends that are coming to visit and they want to be on one. And so it'll be fun.
So the one pie I didn't hear you mention is strawberry pie, and I thought strawberry pies were a very southern pie.
That's on the upcoming list.
Okay.
Strawberry. My granddaughter has already said she's been begging for something banana. So I've got a banana nana pudding coming. I mean, I'm sorry, pie coming. And let's see, one more, cherry and key lime. Those are all on the upcoming list.
Okay. Are you gonna try doing a strawberry rhubarb as well?
I'm going to do a variation of strawberry. Yeah, it's going to be a strawberry cream pie for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
The reason I asked about the strawberry rhubarb is because our rhubarb is now coming up. It's May in Minnesota, so it's rhubarb season. And
Really?
my husband is like just an expert at making pie crust, and I am more than happy to let him make the crust. And then we'll probably pick up a quart or two of strawberries, and we're gonna whip together a strawberry rhubarb pie next weekend.
Mm,
And I have
delicious.
been dreaming. This is my thing. Every May, I'm like, can we please make a strawberry rhubarb pie now,
Mhm.
please? And he's busy. He's in the middle. Well, he's in the, I don't know what the word is, the end stages of getting a heated greenhouse built. And so his weekends have been very full with working on that. But my son mentioned that the rhubarb is ready to be cut. And I said, strawberry rhubarb pie sounds good. And he was like, yeah, we're going to have to talk Dad into making the pie crust. I said, it takes him like 10 minutes to make the pie crust. I
Yeah,
can put the pie together once it's made.
there you
So
go.
that's in our upcoming plans here.
Sounds yummy.
Mm-hmm. I love strawberries. We
Yeah, too. And
we
I've had a
plant.
few
Hmm?
few requests for blackberry pie as well. I haven't done that one yet, but I have, blueberry and strawberry upcoming.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys have black raspberries in Texas?
I don't think so. We have blackberries that grow even wild in Texas. We have black raspberries. I've
Okay.
never
Well, we have black raspberries growing wild in our tree line.
really.
And we made a black raspberry pie the first summer we were here, which
Hmm.
was 4 summers ago now. And oh my goodness, black raspberry pie is the yummiest thing I've ever tasted.
Wow.
It's like a darker tasting raspberry pie.
Hmm.
It's like a cross between a blackberry and raspberry mixed together.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's
I've never
really
heard of
good.
dark raspberries or black
I'm so
raspberries. Never heard of that.
Yep, it's a thing up here in Minnesota. I hadn't really heard about it either until I moved here. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of things in every state that no one knows about until they live there.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
when I was growing up in Maine, we had wild blueberries growing everywhere on my parents' property. So we ate a lot of blueberry jam and a lot of blueberry cake and a lot of blueberry pies.
Oh, yummy. And
Hmm.
blueberries are so good for you too,
Yes, antioxidants all over the place.
all over. That's right.
Yep, I can't eat blueberries raw. I can't handle the pop when you bite into them.
Okay.
Just grosses me out for some reason. But I love blueberry pie. I love blueberry jam. Um, Blueberry cake, not so much, but the other two I'm all good with.
Yes.
So,
I love
well, I'm
blueberries.
really excited that you are raising your granddaughters, and I assume if a grandson comes along, he'll be in the kitchen with you too.
I bet he would.
I'm really excited that you are teaching the girls so far how to cook and how to have fun in the kitchen.
Yes. Thank you. I think it's important. And, it seems like cooking itself seems like a lost art anymore. I think that maybe some of the younger generation is getting back into it, but there's a whole generation that just didn't. They did a lot of eating out and still, and there's just been a kind of a lost art of cooking and baking. And so it's important to get them in there and teach them and show them that it's fun and, get them to love being in the kitchen.
Yes, and as I have said with every episode that I've done with anyone who's cooking or baking, there is a focus and a zen about cooking from scratch. And there's so little time for anyone to focus on one task at one time anymore that I'm grateful when I have the chance to get in the kitchen and really focus and be creative because it's the only thing I'm thinking about at that point in time.
Yes, absolutely. You're able to put your own twist on a recipe or, think about what you're doing. And I always like to take, no matter what I'm making, I always think about how could I make this better if I'm making, you know, dinner or a dessert or whatever, and think about what could I do to make this better. And sometimes that's great. And sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I'll go back to the original recipe. But you don't know if you don't try. And and see how things go. So
Yeah, are you like me when you find a new recipe? Do you make it the way it says to make it the first time? Try it and then be like, oh, I need to change this and I need to take that out. I need to fix this.
absolutely. I've even done
Mhm.
that with if I find a pie recipe or any kind of recipe, like, just for dinner, I'll look at that. And sometimes I either try the real recipe or I'll look at it and I'm like, that would be better with this seasoning or with cheese on top or, whatever. And so either I'll make it the original way or I'll just change it to start with because I'll think that would be better with this and this added or, you know, or I don't like this ingredient, so I'm going to remove that before I even try it or whatever. So,
Yeah, my rule is that I make the recipe the way it says to the first time.
mhm.
And I am such a stickler for it that even when I read the recipe and I know it's not right, I still make it the way it says to the first time. And knowing that it's gonna fall, it's gonna be a failure. And then I'm like, yeah, that recipe's wrong. This is
Right.
what they should have done. And then I do it again and it turns out great.
See, and I guess I'm just the opposite because I look at it and I know I'm not wasting my time on either a technique or something. I'm like, I've tried that, done that, so I'm going to do it the way that I either know how or I think is going to work better just to save time. I don't know. One of my mottos is work smart, not hard. And so if I don't have to do something twice, I'm not going to do it twice.
Well, luckily, most of the recipes that I find, I read the comments before I actually decide to do it. And if
Mhm.
the comments say, no, this doesn't work, then I just don't do the recipe.
Yeah. I do the same. I'll read comments and it'll say, this was good, but I took this so much longer. I added this. And so I'm like, that's when I'll start getting ideas. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a better idea. And I absolutely agree with you on that.
hmm But when I was younger, I didn't realize that I could read the comments and save myself the time by reading other people's discoveries about the recipe.
Yeah.
So that was when I was really a stickler for doing it the way the recipe said the first time.
Hmm.
But I finally learned that, oh, people comment on recipes online and I can find out all the mistakes and all the things first.
Or even just a trick, like, this recipe may be showing you how to do whatever. And then somebody on the comments will be like, hey, this is a tip. It's a shortcut and it does it, it's the same outcome, but yet, it'll give you a tip and a trick to save time or whatever. I've seen those too. They're always helpful.
Yep. And when my kids ask me for a recipe that I have, I will send it to them and I say, read through the recipe before you even consider making it.
Hmm.
Because sometimes there are steps in the recipe that don't come later and you should have known about them to begin with. And I tell them if they're going to do anything that I send them to read the recipe through all the way and then make sure they have all the ingredients on hand and then measure out the ingredients first just because it just makes it easier.
Absolutely. I've made that mistake before. There's been recipes that are written funny to where
Mhm.
some of your directions are down below something. I don't know. They were out of order. And you're like, oops, I wasn't supposed to mix that with that. That was supposed to be a topper or, whatever. And I've definitely done that myself. And so I agree, making sure that you've got all your ingredients, making sure that you're going to want to do all of the steps or like you said, even just reading through the thing to make sure that it's all in order because if you don't do the things that's in order, you may end up mixing something with something that didn't go. And so it's important to read through it for sure.
Yes, because cooking is chemistry.
It is.
And if you mix two things and the reaction happens before it's supposed to, the following reactions don't work the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It's either going to
It's science.
fall or it's not going to cream up or yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's science, but it's really fun, yummy science.
That's right.
All right, Shavonica, thank you so much for your time today talking with me. I
Absolutely. Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for asking me to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking to you guys. I learned things I didn't know.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.